Hello, everybody. It is 6:13 p.m. Central Time on the 17th of January 2021. It's Sunday here in the United States. And just before we even get going, I've got a cat asleep behind me in a chair. May jump up, may not. We don't know. She's been getting in the way, but not a big deal. Just letting you know ahead of time in case you're a new viewer. But we're not here to talk feline. We're here to talk seismic. Let me get a display capture turned on so you can see what we're looking at here a little bit better. And let me quickly explain the earthquakes that are raised high off the globe are deep down into the earth, and we pay attention to the deep earthquakes because next to the deep earthquakes, like these deep fours that are raised high off the globe on our letter D, stands for deep earthquakes, by the way, it's a forecast area point. Look what's next to them, spreading out in all directions from the deep fours. We have shallow fives that are taking place. And what I think is going on with the deep quakes is this. Down in the magma, down below the plates, over hundreds of miles, spreading into a single point, a singularity or a concentric wave that comes into the fluid, and it can't compress down into the fluid, obviously, and so it hammers into the underside of the plate. And that's where our deep earthquakes start, hammering in down below the plate. Again, a singularity or a spike coming in, pushing up on the underside of the plate. And that starts happening multiple times, like the beat of a drum. And then the waves start to spread out. And when they spread out, they organize. They don't become jostling, chaotic waves like in the ocean, but even that has organization. But they become standing waves as they combine. And the standing waves are equally spaced, and you'll notice as the wave spreads through the tank here in the fluid that I can just park my mouse over the center area and one peak fills in the previous trough or the valley. So in other words, the middle point of the valley is filled in by the peak of the next incoming standing wave. And that's pretty much what's happening here. The hammering action's coming in on the underside of the plate, going down to the south, following the plate boundaries down towards New Zealand. 5.1, going to the west. 5.2, going to the west even further. 5.2, going to the west even further. 5.1 and 5.1. And I'm showing you everything 4.0 and greater internationally, so this is the activity in the past 2 days. Then, filling the areas in between the fives, we have mid-range fours. 4.5, 4.5. Over here to the west, another 4.9. So mid-range to upper fours, filling in the middle points between the fives, just like the standing wave that I showed you in the tank. So if we have 5, 5, 5, 5, in between we have 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, so forth. Or similar, very close. And you have to remember that we're not dealing with a flat tank, we're dealing with the plate boundaries in the West Pacific. So the hammering action is actually coming in here, and it's spreading down to New Zealand, following the red line, and following the red lines over to the west. This is the USGS plate boundary map, and I show it all the time. But these are cracks in the plate that start at the surface, where the red lines are, and they go all the way down through the plate. Not perfectly, not straight up and down, but nonetheless, they go down to the bottom of the plate itself where the magma is, in an area called the asthenosphere, which is just a complex term to describe the magma down below the plate. So that hammering action in the magma spreads up through the plate boundaries and out and away. And that's what's happened here, going all the way over to Papua New Guinea. Now, over to the west, same thing going on. It's the same sized activity, too. So, for instance, we have a 5.1 up here on the coast of Taiwan. We go down here into central Indonesia. We have another 5.1. Sound familiar? We were just dealing with all those 5.1s and 5.2s over here. So, we have another 5.2 to 5.3 that struck right next to Mount Krakatau. This is South Sumatra, Indonesia. And then another mid-range 4 in between our 5s. Just going back to the east, same thing, 4s and 5s, again, mid-range 4s and 5s, and then we had a huge volcanic blast that took place. So, several volcanic blasts actually have happened in the past few days across Indonesia. We'll start over here where Mount Sinabung erupted, and then we go down here and we have Mount Merapi, which also erupted, and then the third volcano that showed back up last night, you know what, let's go over and open it up on the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. And we'll go down the list. Sakurajima in Japan is going again, by the way. Same with Novatos de Chilean, but it's a weather emission of some kind of steam. But let's go down the list and see if it's on there. Khrushchevskoye, Popocatépetl in Mexico, Sabancaya in Peru, Sanjay in Ecuador. Sinabung, I just mentioned, 13,000-foot eye blast. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Mount Semeru also put off a big blast, and there's video of that. I don't want to go step on anybody's copyright, so you guys can go search that if you want, but impressive video of the big blast, almost 20,000-foot high blast there. So Semeru, as well as the others going across Indonesia, and their big blasts. So Merapi didn't even make the list for some reason, but we watched it go live on camera the other day. It was like 2 days ago, 48 hours ago, and that's right in the middle where the rings overlap. It's a lot of volcanic activity. Now we go up to the north, and like I said, a 5.1 struck on the coast of Taiwan. It's the same distribution. Let's go look at the USGS plate boundary map one more time. In the West Pacific, over here, where the red lines are. So, we just got done talking about 5.1s going all the way over to Papua New Guinea, and then 5.1s to 5.2s going all the way over here, right to Mount Krakatau. Also 5.1s going up on the plate boundary up to Taiwan, where the plate boundary meets and goes up into Japan, where it makes a letter H-shaped bend in the plate and connects between the two plate boundaries. That's right next to Tokyo. And look what happened. Same-sized earthquakes, 4.6, 4.6, went around both sides of the plate boundary and reaccumulated back up here on the coast of Japan with 4.6 to 4.8. Additionally, look, we have a letter D here, stands for deep earthquakes, and we had a deep 5.2 yesterday strike down at 357 kilometers deep. Well, wait a second, let's go back to the video. The hammering action is now coming up not just below Fiji, it's also below Japan. So now we have two sets of hammering action going on, one below Japan, the other below Fiji, all the way thousands of miles away, all the way down here. So that brings us into the wave tank again. Let's go back to the wave tank portion of this. So imagine one set of deep earthquakes all the way over here, and another set of deep earthquakes all the way down here at the end of the tank. And in between is where the waves start to spread. And you start getting hammering action at both ends. That's pumping more amplitude, or more power, if you will, into the standing waves, which become bigger, and the earthquakes that spread between become bigger, larger, variations between the two. And the larger earthquakes start to spread in between where the deep earthquakes are taking place. And that's exactly what's happened so far. We're not done yet. There's more deep earthquakes. Again, one below Japan, two below Fiji. That's in the last day. So these fives connecting between are already the standing wave that's developed again in the last day across 8,000 miles from Japan to Fiji over to Indonesia. Now, something else that's just amazing is, you remember in my last update, a day ago basically, we were talking about 5.4s and 5.5s spreading around the plates. Well, look what happened. The spread in 5.4 to 5.5 started to carry on all the way over to our other letter D, right here at the tip of the arrow, and I mean perfectly inside of the tip of the arrow, right on the edge of the letter D. Letter D, deep earthquake forecast area, and how deep is this? 191 kilometers deep. It's right at the bottom of the plate, somewhere right at the underside or very close to the bottom of the plate. I consider anything 200 kilometers deep a deep earthquake. So 191, I mean, it's just a matter of a few kilometers. It's a deep quake here as well, but the magnitude is what really matters to me. It's 5.5. So a deep earthquake there, a deep earthquake here, a deep earthquake, sets of deep earthquakes here. Something is going on below the whole West Pacific, spreading underneath Asia, following the red lines of the plate boundary. Check it out. Let's recap. Deep earthquakes here. Fiji. Deep earthquakes here. Coast of Japan. Deep earthquakes also in the past couple days I didn't even mention. Here in Indonesia, where the plate boundaries meet. And then we go up here, and where the plate boundary comes up into Afghanistan and Pakistan, that's where the other new deep quake is. So everything from Fiji to Japan to Indonesia, all the way over here to Afghanistan, something's coming up pressure-wise, seismically speaking. A series of the hammering action events are taking place down below that whole region. And it combines. When it combines, we get larger earthquakes between the sets of deep earthquakes. That's what's going on right now. The spreads between are starting to increase. Now let's carry on with that 5.4 business, because look, another 5.4, and a 5.1. If you add them together, it equals 5.5. But 5.4, 5.1 together, 5.5 energy, striking right at the plate boundary at Kamchatka, Russia. So how many is that now? Again, it's up here on the red line on the plate boundary, up on the north side. So 5.4 here, 5.5, within a hair of a point of each other, and go all the way over here, and we have our 5.4 to 5.5 below Afghanistan, and lo and behold, just the day before, in Iran, a 5.4 to 5.5 earthquake struck, and it didn't just strike anywhere, it also struck on the plate boundary, which is the red line going across South Iran. Do you start to get the picture of what's going on here? That we have a spread of the same-sized earthquakes going across half the planet at this point, going from all the way down here, all the way back across, at least as far into the Middle East, following those red lines. Now, before I get into Europe, I have to jump all the way across the planet in the other direction, because 5.4s and 5.5s struck this direction as well. First, you see the 5.1 and 5.0, but all we have to do is go back a day and a half to 2 days, and there's our 5.5 that came rolling in across the other direction. So in two directions, or three really, going up to Japan, out to Europe, and across over to South America, 5.4 to 5.5. Now look what struck since last night. X marks the spot, hit directly on with a 5.4 to 5.5 earthquake right at the South Sandwich Islands. Let me show it to you on the USGS map here. Look where the red line goes. We had a 5.4 to 5.5 strike out here in the trajectory down to the east-southeast, and I told you when it hit that we would see something similar in size strike down at the east-southeast tip. That's why we have the big arrow there to begin with. We have a big X there. It's been there for years, and it's 5.4 to 5.5. It struck this morning. But look what hit yesterday. A 5.4 to 5.5 struck up here just to the north of that. Now let's go back to the start of the week, and we had a 5.4 to 5.5 strike out here on our other letter X. Now let's show you what's at the other letter X out in the middle of the Atlantic, west of Europe. Well, lo and behold, it's the red line again, and the red line is the plate boundary that dead ends at the T intersection at the Azores, and that's exactly where the 5.4 to 5.5 earthquake struck. How many 5.4 to 5.5s is that? Well, let's just add in one more, because we also got a 5.2 to 5.3, plus a bunch of 4s, if you add it together it equals 5.4, that struck in South Europe at the start of the week. So it's the whole planet, save just one location for the most part, and that's the Pacific Northwest of the United States, still missing a mid-range 5. Oh, I forgot to mention, Central America got a 5.9, an upper 5, plus a 5.1 and 5.2, just like all the rest of the plate, all the way around it. How about that? Now let's get into Europe. So, Europe, check it out. Mid-range 4s came rolling in, and they didn't just strike anywhere. They struck right in our warned areas. Crete got hit, over in Turkey got hit, and Croatia got hit a day and a half ago with a 4.4. So look at the spread. Look at how they're almost equally spaced. We'll go back over to the USGS plate boundary map, and there's our red line again, the plate boundary. And it makes a W shape that goes up into Italy. So earthquake struck 4 right here in between, right where the two come together, but they don't have a line connecting. There's a mountain range that goes right across that, which I could even show you on Google Earth. You can even see it. I don't know why they don't have the plate boundary connected across it, but the spot I'm talking about is right here. You can even see the shape. Oh, maybe I need to turn off the borders. You can even see the shape of the mountains that go across, but for some reason, you come over to the USGS map and they just don't have anything there. Anyway, earthquakes strike across it, just like the rest of the planet, and then down off the coast of Crete, which was our warned area. Now look where the plate boundary goes. It goes up into Italy, right? Word came into me that Italy got hit by something. Let's go see what hit. Oh, that's right. Almost a 4.0 earthquake. And look where it hit. Campobasso. Well, at least very close to it. Let's get our coordinates on this. Anytime something like this strikes, we saw a 3.2 earthquake cause a fatality and building collapses in Italy with an ancient building that collapsed, or ancient, like over 100 years old. So I don't know if you call that ancient, but I mean ancient new construction. Not like, some Roman structure or anything, but people were living in it and it collapsed in a 3.2 earthquake. So, oh wait, what do we have here? A solar farm? No way. Wow. How many are there? Solar and wind farm at the location. Wow. Oh man, this is Italy. But look where we are. We're at the Monte Vulture volcanic field. And Campobasso is up here. Actually, let's see. Here's Campobasso. So we're one Italian province, I guess, or whatever they call them, apart. And quite literally, we're on the edge of a volcanic field. But if you zoom in close, we are directly at a power station and big wind farm with the big turbines as well. And that's just something we cannot overlook, that the plate boundary, let's go back to the plate boundary map now, it goes through right there. Like almost exactly. The province of Basilicata. And that's where the earthquake is, right in the middle, southeast portion of Basilicata. And that's where the plate boundary is. So power station right there, some kind of plate energy, electric, either coming out of the power lines or going up into them, or it's a magnetic disturbance. Somebody else brought that up to me. They said, look, I worked in the power industry for years. I didn't. This is somebody talking to me just this past week online in a comment, or in the chat room, I mean. And they said, I've been in the power industry for years. All the stuff is insulated, basically, is what they were saying. And that the only thing they thought it could be, that it wasn't a discharge out of the power lines or a discharge coming up into the power lines, because they'd be able to detect that surge of power, that it would be a magnetic disturbance, and that is something that may or may not be shielded at certain points, and that the magnetic field could theoretically go down into the ground right there and spread out a few miles around it and cause an earthquake, maybe. It's possible. It's within the realm of possibilities with earthquake lights, etc. Anyway, we have a 3.6 striking right on the plate boundary in Italy. Now, if you're a viewer of mine, you already know we issued the warning in Italy from central Italy over to the east to Albania, Montenegro, all the way as far north as Croatia. Now, Croatia's already been hit by 4.4. 3.6, good news, came in just about a magnitude or less under what we're expecting. But now look where all the rings overlap still. They overlap from Croatia down into Bosnia again. And I say again, and we have to incorporate in Albania, Montenegro. This whole area, this 200-mile stretch, is what I'm looking in. So I know, a new push is coming in. Deep earthquakes down below the Mideast. Plate boundary movement coming right up into Greece, going up into Italy. It's on your doorstep. Look, if somebody's walking up your doorstep and they're getting ready to come up and knock on your door, are you shocked when they knock on your door? That's pretty much what's going on here. It's right on your doorstep. It's in the mid-range 4 level, and we're expecting it to go up into the 5 level. From Croatia, back down into Bosnia, basically. So get ready. Additionally, let's go over to the United States now, where something significant happened last night. And I have to get into the United States last. We're the last to receive the flow, and I think it's pretty obvious we're the last to receive the flow. It goes all the way up and around, like I said, with all those 5.4s and 5.1s. And that's where we get to right here. A 5.4 and a 5.1. Both struck on the plate boundaries. Then we jump over into the Aleutian Island chain, and it goes down a step from 5.4 down to 4.4. It takes a magnitude drop down as it's coming across this steep bend of the plate. Let me show it to you. On the USGS plate boundary map again. The red line again. Going right up, but look how it makes a hard east. It's going north, makes a hard east. Now when that happens, the energy goes across there. It too takes a hard east, and it takes a step down. Physically, it has to go across there. So I think that's where it's losing some of its energy, going across there. But nonetheless, it's about the same size energy, just like what's going on across Japan. 5.1, 5.4, with 4s in between. And we have a 5.1 and 5.4 up here in Russia, Kamchatka, with 4s in between. Then we get into Alaska, and it takes a step down further. It goes from 4.4 down to 3s and 2s. The trajectory on these quakes is all clustered. Look at this. Mount Denali to the south, all the way down to Kodiak. Just a handful trickling out up to the north. All centered right in here. Well, that's in the fold of the bend of the accretionary belt on the edge of the craton. Let me show it to you on the not USGS, on Google Earth. This is actual topography now. So you'll see the mountain ranges here, for instance. Here's Alaska, and you see how it makes a bend and goes down into Canada? We also see it goes over to the east, and there's a less pronounced mountain range, but nonetheless it does the same trajectory. It goes down to the south. That is the interior edge of the craton. So compare it on the diagram going through Canada and along the coast. The green versus the purple versus the orangish color. Now the earthquakes take that path. They go off the Aleutian Island chain and come up and jump into the plate up here and cluster in this area. And Mount Denali, the highest point in North America, it's like a buildup point, like a flowing river with debris in it, and it starts to pool up and build up into a mound. Well, that's where it's happening right here at the bend in the plate. Do you see that the bend in the plate, where one earthquake struck over here on the west side, and it takes a step down, we get up here into the edge of the plate, and it catches the energy, which then, look which way it goes. It goes down to the east-southeast and connects into the Juan de Fuca fracture zone with its jagged edges that belong to the Pacific plate. Pacific plate owns these jagged edges here like saw teeth pushing into North America, Laurentia. In the past several days, going back to last week, hundreds of new tremors broke out across Northern California and Oregon. Let me show you those tremors. We'll go back several days and we'll bring it forward to current. Here's the 10th. We're going to look over the last week. Okay, last 7 days. Starting a week ago, here we are. We have hundreds, 349 tremors in southwest Oregon and just a handful in the valley of Northern California. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Now I'm going to turn on the imagery, and you see the jagged edges of the Juan de Fuca out here that I already talked about. These jagged edges like saw teeth actually belong to the Pacific plate. And these are down below these. Although these are down in the plate, this is down at the sea floor, and the crack goes even further, much further down, all the way through the plate. Let's go back to the plate boundary map one more time, just so you can remember this. Remember the jagged edges out here? It makes like a letter M shape, and these are cracks through the plate that go all the way through it, from the surface all the way down to the magma. Why does that matter? This is down below this, or the jagged edges are down below North America. Now, energy is developing in North America, but where's it coming from? These are like arrows pointing in and up to the plate. And this part here started to shift over the past 7 days. First, we had this outbreak of tremors, 349. Let's go forward a day to the 11th. 89, it started to die out, but look what happened. It went from Oregon down into California more. Let me turn the topographic map back on. So it went from here down to here. It shifted from Oregon down to California. But why does that matter? Look, here's the plate boundary. Look what it does. Down in California, where the tremors shifted down to, is right where the Juan de Fuca southern arm ends and goes into the San Andreas. Let's go forward a day on the tremor map to the 12th. Dies down one day and then goes back up the next. And where did it go back up? Went back up only in California. Southern arm of the Juan de Fuca shifting on land, but the energy is coming from out here in the ocean. Let's go forward another day to the 13th. Well, there we go. It shifts back to the north, and it shifts across 3 equal-spaced sections on the coast of Oregon. But, looking back at the USGS map here, look what is on the coast of Oregon. The giant arrow has a corresponding point out here in the middle, south of the axial seamount volcano, down here, corresponds right into the middle of the area that's shifting on both sides. And the other two sides, this arrow points right into it, perfectly. No exaggeration. The arrow points perfectly, if you follow the slightly northeast angle on the arrow, into the middle of the area that's shifting. Now we're going to go forward to the 14th. Check it out. Nothing. All of a sudden the plate stopped shifting? No, I would say they have some kind of sensor error or website error. Let's go forward to the 15th. 7 are there, but they're back in southwest Oregon again. So it seems to be focused in Oregon and northwest California. Nothing so far up to the north. Do you see anything? Go forward to the 16th. I spoke too soon, right? No, I already knew. Up to the north, 2 more sections develop. Now the north side starts to shift. And let's go compare the areas that are shifting up to the north. Southwest Washington and the southeast tip of Vancouver Island. Southwest Washington, right here. and the southeast tip of Vancouver Island right about here. Well, looky there. We have another set of arrows pointing into the spot that's shifting up in Vancouver Island. And the spot that's shifting here on the coast of Washington corresponds perfectly out to the west to the axial seamount that erupted in 2015, which is another jagged edge. It's just slightly notched in. Nonetheless, it's a perfect corresponding point, and we have a new earthquake there today. We'll go look that up in a moment. Getting back to the tremors, go forward to the 17th. Today, nothing yet reported today. What am I getting at? It shifted up here. Then, to top it all off, a new 4-point-something earthquake struck 2 days ago out off the coast, right in the middle of the jagged edge, between the jagged edge and Northwest California. It was a 4.3. Let me see if it's still on the feed. Is it still there? It was 6 days ago. Okay. It's not there anymore. Oh, no, there it is. The 4.3. But a new earthquake struck last night, and it was a 4.4, and that's the earthquake you see here right now on the screen. And that new 4.4 is within the magnitude of our forecast area. And let me just say, Eureka was warned. Let me show you where Eureka is and where the new earthquake struck. Eureka is right in here. Let me turn our places back on. There it is. So we warned Eureka for 5.0 range, and the new earthquake came in on the Mendocino Ridge, the Gorda Escarpment right here, this east and west facing fracture zone. It's made up of thousands of small undersea mounts and volcanoes. Look at how many craters just make up this one alone. They just pile up on top of each other, some thousands of feet high. Okay, so that's where the earthquake struck, out here, right on the Mendocino Ridge, fulfilling the forecast for Northwest California. But just before that, this has all happened last night within about 2 to 3 hours. Look at what happened. This is just amazing. So you see these pink-colored earthquakes here at the Nevada border? They're 2 3.9s. They struck on the 15th. So 2 days ago, that happened. Let's get those out of there. There we go. Now, this happened last night. First, a 4.0 struck over here at the Owens Valley, Olancha, California, next to Monash Mountain Volcano. It's a surface earthquake. Look at the depth. 0.1 kilometer depth, right up at the surface. Monash Mountain, I'm going to show it to you. It's a volcano, no doubt about it. Let me show you. Here's the earthquake epicenter. Here is Monash Mountain. It's literally a matter of about a mile. And look at the shape of Monash Mountain. And on the other side of Brown Mountain Volcano, which is another volcano, look, Templeton Mountain. Same size and shape. We have two of the same size and shape volcanoes. They might even be the same age or roughly the same age. Two ancient volcanoes. But wait, there's more. Golden Trout Creek and Red Hill Volcano. Two of the same size and shape Spattercone volcanoes. Look at those. Okay, one's older than the other. Golden Trout Creek is the younger of the two, marked by the Smithsonian. And so what we have here are two same size shaped volcanoes here, two same size shaped volcanoes here, and a bigger shield volcano in between the two. And look, they make a crescent shape. And the earthquake came in right next to Monash Mountain, the volcano to the south. But wait, there's one final piece of this puzzle, and that's the volcano over here on the other side of this ravine, which is not marked as a fault. By the way, this is not marked on the USGS fault zone map. But here, Soda Butte is another ancient volcano with tuftage on the top. And then, down here on the south side, you might see this now. I didn't see this at first. One of my viewers pointed this out to me when we were live like 2 years ago. This is a bulging dome-like shape in the crust, most likely from a bulge of magma, and that's no shock because on the other side of these mountain ranges here, other bulges of magma have come up and made huge lava domes in Kozo Volcanic Field. These are all lava flows here in the desert at Volcano Peak with 14 different eruptive points. So it makes sense. On this side, there's also something, and that's a rising laccolith. They don't normally erupt, they just bulge when magma intrudes deep down below. But look at the shape on this. It's an oval shape, lined with volcanoes with a, I would say that's a fault, but it's not marked, a ravine in between. Earthquake striking around the outside edge of this, and on the other side, Camp Nelson. caught on fire and burnt. This whole thing caught on fire and burnt on the west side of this oval shape of volcanoes that keeps getting hit with earthquakes. So wait, giant oval shape lined with volcanoes gets hit with earthquakes. Where have I heard that before? Well, let's go up to the north, due north of this 4.0, straight back up the valley, or all north by northwest. Go up the valley to a giant oval shape here, which is lined with volcanoes and gets hit with earthquakes around the outside edge and in the middle. And look, it's a supervolcano called Long Valley Caldera. 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt down below, classifying it as a supervolcano. So we have an oval shape here lined with volcanoes, gets hit with earthquakes we know about. But this one here, no one's, that I know of, has even put it all together yet. Now guess what happened on the west side of Long Valley this past year? Major fires broke out across the entire area on the west side of this giant oval shape. Now to top it off and seal the deal, up here to the north by northwest, we have one more gigantic oval shape here. And it too is lined with volcanoes around the outside edge. And guess what happened to it? Earthquakes strike around the outside edge of it, and hot spots and fires broke out right next to it on the western side. So that's 3 giant oval shapes going down the border of California. And to top it all off, breaking news, we have a new hot spot reported out here in the valley. Several, let's see what their temperatures are. We have odd 64,000 Kelvin oddity being reported. Is there anything here of any significance? Just some farm fields as far as I can see. I don't see any high voltage power lines here nearby. Well, one lone set of hotspots in California right next to where our earthquake is. So recapping, 4.0 earthquake, Monash Mountain. Let's go over and look at the 4.2. Aromas. Wait, yeah, aromas? Does that mean smell? The smell? Okay, let's put the coordinates in. Let's go see what's there. We're right on the San Andreas, or at least right next to it. We're right next to the San Andreas. And we zoomed in on this area last night when the earthquake struck. There is a mine and quarry right next to this. There are also high voltage power lines right next to this. There are also railroad tracks right next to this. So that's not going to help us when we're looking for the hotspots or anything anomalous. But the earthquake is not a quarry blast. They have this listed down at 8.3 kilometer depth. Let's go over quickly and take a look at the USGS plate boundary map again. And this is where the earthquake struck. This is Monterey Bay. You see the thick red line. That's the San Andreas. Jumping off the San Andreas like a little offshoot or a side tributary on a river, the Zayante Vergeles Fault Zone. I've never even heard of it before, but it's right next to Monterey Bay. San Andreas is where the earthquake struck. So wait, now that's 2 4s that struck, and how far apart in time? This one struck at 2:49 UTC. This one struck at 4:01 UTC, about an hour something apart. Then, within an hour of that, or a couple hours of that, by 6:25 UTC, the third earthquake struck in our warned location. So our warned location, check it off the list. Our spot over north of Ridgecrest, south of the supervolcano, also hit, and our spot here on the San Andreas hit. The only thing missing now, well, there's a few things missing. We would expect a new series of earthquakes to strike next to Lombok into North LA, from North LA to Lombok, and from San Diego down into Baja. Now, somebody told me a new 4 struck down in Baja yesterday, reported by the Mexicans, and it was ignored by the USGS. And that's from a report from somebody who monitors the Mexican agency, and they're a trustworthy source. That's Casimirio, guys. So Cas reported in yesterday that a 4 struck right down here in Baja. And that would complete the line of 4s going down the coast, coming out of the Juan de Fuca, which just got done shifting. I just got done showing it to you. 7 days worth of tremors up here. Oregon, Northern California shifted. The Juan de Fuca shifted. 4s popped off as expected down the coast, going as far south as southern central California. I'll call that Central California. The next stop, south. let me show it to you this way. You'll understand it way better. If you watched my update yesterday, you already knew this was going to happen. You can go back and watch my update from yesterday. It's over on YouTube. Anybody can watch it. It's free. The earthquakes coming down from the northwest, following these faults, which look which way they point. They all pretty much point the same direction, northwest to southeast. It goes down here to the supervolcano, where it had pooled up as of yesterday with two 3.9s that I showed you already, but I'll show you again right now. 2 days ago, on the 15th, boom, boom, 3.9 and 3.9. These struck first. They're in a pinkish color. When that happened, I told you guys that energy was going to be coming down to the south, and it would reach down to the Garlock and go over to the west and go over towards Lompoc, and we have Lompoc in the warning. Well, now it's coming down. It's so close. It's here, Owens Valley, and it's here on the San Andreas. Look where they come together. They come together on the Garlock and go across the Mojave Desert, hence my warning for the final point down here, San Diego, down into Baja. So far, 3 of the 5 locations have been hit. 5 warnings going, 3 already struck. And 3 of them struck within a few hours of each other last night going into this morning. Now, all that's missing out of all this is new 5.0 activity or greater to strike out here in the ocean, which is like hit or miss for them to report it. I know there's a 3.8 out there now. There we go, weeks if not months without any reporting of quakes out there. So I just have to wonder where the 5s are off the coast, but that's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. Nobody lives out there. I just need to see that to happen to fully fulfill the whole forecast. Southern California, this is day 2 of a 7-day watch, and this just all happened pretty much day 1 into day 2. So we still have like pretty much 5 to 6 more days, let's just say 5 more days, for the warning in Southern California from Lompoc to North LA and from San Diego down to the border. Both should get hit. This should reaccumulate. The 4s coming down, so it should be a little bit bigger down here to the south, or a big swarm that equals a large earthquake. That's what we would hope for. A swarm of just thousands of small earthquakes. Meow. Yes. The cat always... This is like timed perfectly because I'm at the end of the update. I don't have much more to talk about. We had a new earthquake at the oil pumping operations in Texas. We had a new earthquake. Oh, there is something to talk about. Hold on. A 1.5 struck on the edge of the Craton in South Colorado. And guess what's in South Colorado on the edge of the Craton? First of all, look at the edge of the Craton. It goes right down through central Colorado, doesn't it? It follows the continental divide, basically. But here, 1.5, Stonewall Gap, Colorado. There's something there. There's thousands of... There's thousands of drill points here. Thousands and thousands. I have a few marked just to make it a little easier to see them, but here's our earthquake epicenter, and our nearest frack well for oil and gas is right here. Now, on the Colorado side of the border, they built these little sheds and protective equipment around the oil wells, but you see how many different pads there are here in the ground. If we jump across the border over into New Mexico, they don't have the regulations on the oil wells. So let's turn our borders and labels back on. First of all, here's the border with New Mexico right here. So we jump across the border, and the same pads that have protective berms and protective buildings don't have any. And you can see the shadow of the jack of the pump there still. You can make out that it's an oil well, for instance. Anyway, all this is drilled. All these little specks in the ground are different drill points. These aren't campsites or these aren't houses. All oil and gas, southern Colorado, all the way across the whole Front Range, going back up to the actual higher mountain peaks. That's southern Colorado, edge of the Craton, hit by an earthquake. Now, we also have hot spots across Colorado suddenly today. Let's go see what's going on here. Hot spots in Colorado. Is there anything here nearby? Let's look within a few miles, see if we have anything. We have some roads. These are huge mountain peaks. Well, I'm just looking for any kind of large power generating stations Anything that could stand out as odd. What do we have going on here? Looks like forestry clear-cut at some point in the past. Ancient mining from the Tartarian age. Okay, that's just odd. We have hotspots across Colorado all of a sudden. Intermittently spaced across the mountain peaks, no less. Which, look, I mean, we are at, what is our elevation here? 12,000 feet in the middle of winter. At Monumental Peak, for instance. It's not a ski resort there, guys. There's nothing there. Just a hot spot on a mountain peak in the middle of the winter. Let's go up to the north, see what's here. See, if there were houses there or something, or power lines, or train tracks or something, I would at least have something to attribute it to. But up on a mountain peak in the middle of the winter in Colorado makes you wonder. Here, we're getting close to a town, Leadville. This has a solar farm there, of all things. Oh my God. All right. How many solar farms are we going to see get hit in this update with earthquakes? Well, now we have a solar farm getting hit with a hotspot. Hotspots going on across. Wow, hold on. Look at Mexico. What the heck is going on down here? Okay, we got a line of hotspots across Mexico, right across Baja, going right up into the border, going into Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, some in Nevada, and one in California. Okay, wow. And look at the Midwest. We're back to that again, huh? Wow, hold on. Over on the East Coast, look at all of our hotspot outbreaks. Look at this. Something's going on in Georgia, right along the power lines. Huge outbreak of hotspots, and these are the power lines right here. These are the high voltage power lines you could probably see in the ground. Look at how many we've got. We got big-time power surging going on the edge of the craton over to the east. Look at the eastern edge of the craton, Tennessee, Georgia. It makes a bend right there on the edge of the plate. The plate could be discharging. Or charging. Seaverville, of all places. Oh, wow. At least it's not Sievertville. Little nerd joke there. That's a nerd joke. Look at the edge of the craton going up across Virginia. Going up into the far northeast, up in New York, New Jersey. Hotspots in New Jersey along the power lines. Well, worthy to note that, guys. We have to watch where the hotspots are. Could be where we see new earthquake activity. It could just be a electrical anomaly, but it seems pretty odd to me that it's taking place across the edge of the craton. That, to me, is extremely odd. Okay, any other activity that we've missed that we haven't talked about, other than the smaller earthquakes in Texas and Oklahoma, which are at pumping operations? We have a small earthquake from yesterday in the New Madrid seismic zone and yesterday's rare earthquake up here in Virginia. Small earthquakes in the Pacific Northwest, let's just go take a quick look. This is all in the last day and a half, 2 days. Wait, everybody put on the brakes. Put on the brakes. Stop what you're doing. Look at the screen. We have a swarm outbreak all happening in the past hour. Wait. Yeah. In the last hour, a swarm has broken out in northern Oregon. And it's going up to 2.7, but there's just a huge stack. The location is called Government Camp, Oregon. How ironic is that? I know what's at this location. My longtime viewers know what's at this location. New viewers, yes, technically, there is a government camp there. Didn't mean to hit the microphone, by the way. But you'll see we're zooming in on something. It's a volcano called Mount Hood. And Mount Hood is well known. You may at least have heard of it. Mount Hood, Oregon's highest peak, forms a prominent backdrop to the state's largest city, Portland. The eroded summit area consists of several andesitic and dacitic lava domes. Major Pleistocene edifice collapse produced a debris avalanche in lahar that traveled north down the Hood River Valley and crossed the Columbia River. It's a huge stratovolcano, and we have a big outbreak taking place there. What is the depth of most of this? Oh, wow. Okay. We're at 5.6 kilometer depth. I wonder if they have measurements on Mount Hood. Hood volcano magma chamber depth. I don't know if this will even bring up anything because I don't know what the depth of the magma. Oh, wow. Look. Mount Hood. The hotter magma from deeper down warms the cooler magma stored at 4 to 5 kilometer depth. From nsf.gov, National Science Foundation. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I think we got an answer as to what's causing the swarm there. The cooler upper magma chamber is being displaced slightly. Hence the earthquakes, which would be, I don't think it would be draining, not at a time like this, not when the plate's shifting just to the south and down to the south we're swarming, that this would also be charging and that the magma chamber would be charging slightly, causing a swarm. Does not mean eruption yet, knock on wood, but I certainly am not going to be trusting tilt meters and sulfur dioxide meters. Right, people in Hawaii? After this last blast, we all learned our lesson about trusting tilt meters and sulfur dioxide readings. Didn't have any show up, or if they did, they didn't really tell us. Maybe you'd have to monitor it yourself or something. Put a live feed of the sulfur dioxide readings out. How about that? But nonetheless, we have a large earthquake swarm at a volcano here in northwest Oregon. Right at the backside of our arrow, right at a time where the plate is shifting, we have 4.0 activity out in the ocean, we have 4.0 activity down to the south, and I haven't even talked about the other earthquakes that are surrounding this. So, for instance, over to the east, the earthquakes that creep down the edge of the craton out of Montana. Look at the craton edge in Montana. Look where it goes. It goes down into Yellowstone, and look where the earthquakes go. They go right along the edge of the craton and go right down into the park at Yellowstone. Even further, maybe just a few miles down to the Tetons. This cluster at Stanley, Idaho is above the magma chamber for Yellowstone. Even though Yellowstone's at the border of Wyoming and Idaho, the magma chamber is 30 kilometers down and 11 Grand Canyons in size. And so the deepest part of the feeder for the magma chamber for Yellowstone is actually down below central Idaho. So these earthquakes are really up above the magma chamber that feeds Yellowstone up at the surface over in Wyoming. That should increase. Look, if this volcano's going up, Yellowstone's going up. The edge of the craton's going up. It's not like one's going to go up and the others aren't. And let's go up here to the north. Where are the rest of these quakes striking? Well, there's a little cluster outbreak here going up to 2.4. That's happening on the foot or flank of Mount Rainier. And I already showed it in yesterday's update, but we'll pull the coordinates again. We'll just grab any one of the earthquakes from the little outbreak there. And notice the depth on this, 12.5 kilometer depth. Why does that matter? Guess how far down the magma chamber for Rainier goes. I'm pretty sure I already looked it up, but I think it's 10 to 11 kilometers depth. We can go look it up if you need to, but one's enough for me. Here we are, we're on the foot of Mount Rainier. And it too is a well-known volcano. If you're not from the United States, feel free to pause it and read it if you need to. You can see this from downtown Seattle. The rest of the earthquakes go up to the north and they strike right next to power lines. We already looked those up yesterday. And they're all about the same size. 1.7, 1.7, 1.6, 1.6. The only oddball out was the 0.9 over to the east. The rest of the quake striking in the Puget Sound on the Seattle Fault. Seattle Fault, I can show it to you on the USGS plate boundary map. One more time. Let's go back and reference their map. Here it is. And there's the Seattle Fault. And the earthquakes are right in the middle of the Puget Sound, right where the faults connect between each other. You see that? See how they kind of go north and south? Almost perfectly north and south. That's where the earthquakes are striking. So what's going on? A line of quakes coming in from the northwest, going down to Mount Hood, swarming at the volcano. Mount Hood swarming, geez. Going further to the south, tremors, all those little red dots I showed you earlier as the plate is shifting across southwest Oregon, northern California. Then going from that down to the fours all of a sudden. The beat of the drum. And the drum started beating. It wasn't just a snare drum rolling like it was before. It's the beat of the bass drum has kicked in. We get 3 different 4s in a matter of hours on the West Coast in California. The same time that Mount Hood starts to swarm, the same time that the plate started to shift, the same time that the rest of the plate is shifting. And I want to show everybody this. Look at the last 7 days worth of quakes across the United States. Here, hold on. Let me turn off all the magnitudes just so you can see the rings. The size of the earthquakes, for instance, if you're new here, these are 4s, and here's 4s, here's 3s, whoops, there's 3s, there's 2s, there's 1s. But what I want to show you is that the earthquakes match the edge of the plate, the craton edge. Going out of Montana, down through Utah, down through southern Colorado, going back over to the East Coast, back all the way up the East Coast, up to New Brunswick. This is 7 days worth of quakes. In 1 week's time, pretty much the same amount of energy went all the way across the edge of the plate. Professionals said this was impossible. I tried to show this to them many times over the past several years. They said it was chance and coincidence first. Then they said that I must be faking earthquakes somehow to make it look like earthquakes are going across the plate. But then they could go download their own copy of Earthquake 3D, or you could just plot the earthquakes yourself using the USGS map and do the same thing, and you'll see it matches. And why would they deny that, though? Well, they had said previously that there was no transfer of energy going across plates, and that every earthquake was independently happening randomly. Because that makes sense, right? Anyway, they previously said that earthquakes were random, so when you show an organization that there's a transfer happening, like it's following a path, and it happening in the course of a short period of time, this isn't like some long geologic drawn-out process that takes decades or something. Long story short on this, the earthquakes are going across the craton edge, and not just in the United States. It's happening that way everywhere around the world. And now that we know that, you can watch the path and know that there is a path and a trajectory for the activity to take. Now that takes me back to the start of the update. The deep earthquakes. The deep earthquakes went through the roof over the past several weeks. 100 or more different deep, more than that. Just so many deep earthquakes. And my viewers are keeping track over live on Twitch. They're keeping track of the deep quakes. And as we see the increase in the number of deep quakes and the size of the deep quakes, we go from 4s to 5s deep-wise. We then see shallower, larger earthquakes take place. So when we see the deep earthquakes increase, we know to expect something very soon to start to spread out in a way. I would encourage you all to have a plan and be prepared just in case. You know, don't be scared, right, Wednesday? Oh, yeah. Oh, Duchess, oh, thank you. Don't be scared, the cat said. Be prepared. And it just means knowing what to do when an earthquake strikes. Take shelter underneath a table or a desk to protect yourself from falling objects. But you have to know the kind of structure you're in, because I just watched some troubling videos coming out of Indonesia, I almost call it India. Indonesia, where buildings collapsed, people are trapped inside, and of course a table or a desk isn't going to support the weight of a collapsing building. I don't know what to offer for a solution in that, other than you got to know your structure, and if you're going outside, it's usually more dangerous outside than it is inside. So if you can take shelter inside your building, chances are your building will withstand most earthquake activity, unless it's just the really large quake. And you'll know while the quake's going on, I suppose, whether or not the building's going to stand or fall. And in that time, you would have to be able to make your way out and avoid all those hazards. But if you're going outside, I would say go outside afterwards. If your building has withstood the earthquake, but it's compromised, you wait and then go outside and find your pre-designated place to go. If you're going outside or staying inside, you need to have an emergency kit. Change of clothes, set of shoes, first aid, sanitation, medicine if you require it. Just basic stuff. Flashlight, batteries. You'll think of good things to put into it. I'm just telling you to get it going now. You have no excuse. The last year should have taught us all a lesson about being prepared and having the things that we need ahead of time, just in case you can't go get them at a moment's notice. So I'm not trying to be harpy or lecture-y or anything like that, but I am going to remind you, because who else is going to? Who else is going to get on and be like, hey guys, Take the time, la la la. I know you're tired of hearing it, but I'd rather just, tell you a couple more times and have actually some people do it. Okay, now on a positive note, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe over on Twitch. That financially supports me. You get a free subscription if you have Amazon Prime. No pressure. You can watch any way you want. It's free to watch. And everybody on Twitch is doing a phenomenal job in getting the word out. Everybody watching on YouTube, you're watching a pre-recorded event that was live on Twitch, but nonetheless, you guys are still doing your part. You're getting it out around the world, and it's been just a major, major increase in the number of people that have gotten the message. Now, I've published how to forecast an earthquake. If you're a skeptic or you're somebody who doesn't understand about earthquake forecasting, I've already published the step-by-step directions, how to. There's no mystery in this. We're not lining planets up. We're not getting out crystal balls. You can repeat the method. You can repeat it down to the point, which is pretty basic. We're finding middle points between current areas that are shifting, the middle fulcrum point, if you will, and then we add the magnitudes on both sides or all sides of the area that's shifting. The deep earthquakes cause shallower, larger earthquakes. So if you get a deep 4 and it's going to be shallower and larger, that means it's going to be a 5 or greater. Those basic principles I've laid out into an hour-long video, step-by-step directions, so anybody can repeat the method. Feel free to go repeat the method. All right, time now, 7:09 p.m. Central Time, the 17th, January 2021. Still officially the future, I suppose. Is it, when, 21 years ago when it was Y2K and you thought about the future, did you think it was going to be like this? Oh, God, what happened to the future, man? Marty McFly, the things Marty didn't tell us, Okay. All right, we're done. You guys are good. I'll be back if anything seismically happens. Anything goes down, I'll be back. Much love. And look out for this as a video over on YouTube. Peace out.